Hello and welcome to Global Business. I am your instructor, Dr. Kyle Allison. I am very excited to be your instructor for the next several weeks for this online course on global business. I think you're going to enjoy it. Global business is very fascinating because you get to learn about a wide variety of dynamics on how to do business internationally, from political to legal to cultural dynamics and everything in between that truly shape what it means to study global business. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. I like to start out with an introduction of who I am. Once again, my name is Dr. Kyle Allison. I am someone who enjoys teaching online. I've been teaching online for several years now at a variety of universities, primarily in business management courses, but I've also dabbled in marketing courses as well, because by day, marketing is my forte. I'm a VP of marketing for the Department of Defense for one of their websites, and I enjoy tying marketing into business strategy and management courses, but also global business. I've done business internationally as well, and my DBA, my Doctorate of Business Administration focus was in global business and leadership. So definitely love this topic of global business, and we'll explore that together. I got my MBA from Amerton University and my BA from the University of North Texas. And outside of working and teaching, I spend time with my family. Just typical family guy. I like to spend time on the weekends with them, and having dinner, going to movies, just doing the normal family stuff. If you need to contact me anytime, my email address is right there for you. My phone number also is in the syllabus. Best way to reach me probably is email, though, because I will definitely be able to get back to you within 48 hours. If you do call me, leave a message. But generally, I do check my email once a day, and I'll get back to you, like I said, usually within 24 or 48 hours at the most. I do not have set office hours. We'll just play it by ear and case by case situations where if we do need to talk, we can find a mutual time to schedule and talk over the phone. I do encourage you to reach out to me via email or in the classroom, post a question as soon as you can. If you find yourself struggling to understand an assignment or an expectation in the class, please do reach out, because the sooner you can ask me, the sooner I can get back to you to help you prepare to meet your deadlines in the course. My expectation is that you keep on top of your reading and your assignments week to week. The course is structured very straightforward, where most weeks you have a chapter, maybe two at most, but mainly a chapter to read, videos to watch, a discussion to participate in, and some type of weekly assignment, big or small. But as we will go over your grades and how you're being evaluated on the assignments here in just a moment, just know that I do ask you meet your deadlines on time. Excuse me, on time. If you have any extenuating circumstance, please do, of course, let me know as soon as you can, and preferably prior to a deadline. But if something comes up, I do understand. But generally, for an extenuating circumstance, only will I make accommodations. Otherwise, assignments are due on the due date, and there are 2 extra credit opportunities for you in this course. Please do review that in the syllabus and on the online portal. You'll see 2 events, one in September and one in November, you can attend for potential extra credit, but those are the only 2 opportunities for extra credit. So please keep that in mind. Without further ado, let's get into the topics that we'll discuss in this class. So some of this information is in your online classroom, so I'm not going to go through each of the different prompts as you get in, but I do want you to spend some time your first couple days in the course reading the course information, the overview, get very familiar with the syllabus, and really get yourself acclimated with what's expected for you in this class in the beginning, so there's no confusion down the road. Of course, at any point, if you read anything or hear anything about the course that you need me to clarify for you, I'm here to help you. I'm here for you to be successful. I want to help you understand the material, what's expected of you, and the earlier you can get to me with your questions, the better the outcome. If you wait too long to ask a question, especially if you're coming up on a deadline, and it's that scramble effect. I can only get back to you as fast as I can. I am responsive. I do get back to you generally within 24 hours, 48 hours at the extreme, depending if it's the weekend or what's going on. But the earlier you can get to me with your questions, the better, so I can get back to you with an answer that hopefully helps you move forward in the class. Overall, the course information. So, in general, we're going to introduce you to all types of topics in the world of international business. We're going to start very basic and make sure you understand on the fundamental here in week one what international business is. We think international, we just think of doing business with other countries, but it's more than that. It's understanding laws and agreements and trade laws, things of that nature. We need to understand customs and culture shifts in these different areas and what are the parameters on how you're allowed to market and do business in these countries. So the very detailed overview here, but in a nutshell, there's a lot more than just doing business with other countries. There's a big scope of responsibility when a country, or excuse me, when a business does their business in a foreign country. There's a distinction between domestic and international. And every day that we move forward in a very complex technological environment, the more complex business gets, especially from a global perspective. We're very connected as a world now. We're very connected with the internet and with technology and systems. But even within that, there's still a lot of complexity involved. So we'll get into more of that as we go throughout the course, but I really do look forward to you learning each of these pieces and putting it together over time. Course learning outcomes. So pretty straightforward. These are going to be the high level things that you should get out of this course. The course fulfills your program level student outcomes for the MBA program. You should be able to assess global opportunities and challenges for business growth and perform strategic analysis effectively. In addition, as a student of this course, you'll be able to evaluate the impact on business of the global environment, assess the uniquely global aspects of the 21st century and its impact on every business. You should be able to value basic economic, political, and cultural forces that drive the conduct of international business. You should be able to judge how each function of an organization can be transformed by globalization and by the organization's goal to act globally. Be able to judge of the best market entry options for organizations willing to play in the global arena. Interpret business economic consequences of ethnic, religious, regional, and cultural rivalries, conflict, to determine the business risk inherent into these affected markets. And lastly, assess how technology is fueling globalization on many levels of business. Especially that last bullet point, as I just described, technology is fueling globalization. It's connecting us, but it's also making business more complicated with the fact that we're becoming so connected. The speed to market, the speed of information, being able to react to that information is key. And a lot of these outcomes you'll get from this class is understanding that you have to really take into account your foreign markets and their political, economic, or cultural factors of going into business with these countries. You have to take your customs and values in the way you do business and find ways to adopt or embrace or partner or sometimes bargain with these other countries based on the arena that they play in. So it can be complex, but it's also very interesting when you learn more about certain countries and how they do business. So the course grading overview. This course is going to be broken up into 5 key areas of assignments. Weekly discussions are very important. Just about every week you will have a reading out of the textbook, some videos to watch, and a video lecture of mine that you can review. I will either assign a discussion topic around one of the videos that I may post, the lecture, and or the reading. So it's important that you do review all the material to understand what's expected of you in the discussions. The discussions are going to be pretty straightforward. It's going to be a question that relates to the topics covered that week, and it's looking for you to provide your critical thinking into that topic. What did you learn? What did you get from the material that you reviewed? And I'm really looking for that engagement in the classroom. I want your initial posts posted by Thursday by 11:59 p.m. your time zone. Responses to at least 2 peers are expected by Sundays following the initial post by 11:59 p.m. on Sundays. It's very important that we engage with each other, we learn from each other. A discussion in a virtual classroom is the best way to interact and learn. I'm looking for substantive responses and posts. I'm looking for more than just "I agree" or "good job" one sentence statements. I'm looking for substance. At least a couple paragraphs in your initial post, a paragraph or two in your responses with some depth, some thought-provoking questions or comments. But also, we have to practice, as you know, in the online environment, etiquette. We want to make sure we're appropriate. Please respect your peers. Please, um, you know, watch how you're saying your tone and be respectful of others and their opinions. And if we just work on that together, we should have a great time in the weekly discussions. You'll have 4 case studies. Those case studies are going to be uh, from your textbook. They're going to be exercises that, again, assess your skill set of understanding what the course material is and looking for your critical thinking in that as well. I'm looking for more of your thoughts than just verbatim reference citations from the textbook. It's okay to use a reference citation here and there to support your commentary, but I'm looking for more of your thoughts than the textbook. Please keep that in mind. Your midterm and final will consist of short essay prompts. These are going to be very similar to your case studies, but a little more in depth, a little more detailed, a little more case applicable, case study driven. So those will be posted, and I'll give you an overview of each the midterm and final the week or two leading up to those events, so you're more prepared. But it will encompass all the topics leading up to the midterm and then leading up to the final. And then you'll have 5 ethical dilemma assignments. Now, in the textbook, you'll see in every chapter ethical dilemmas. You won't have to do one for every chapter, but you will be expected to do 5 throughout the semester. And these are going to be areas where you're going to have to look at the ethics of the situation, the case study, and analysis, and really answer the question of what would you do with the information that you have and with the topic at hand. How would you handle a particular situation? So a lot of writing in this course, but again, it's a way for you to express your thoughts. I'm looking for your comprehension of the topics in the class, but how would you apply those principles and global business topics that we're discussing into your writing? I look for honesty. I'm sure we know this at this MBA level that we should not plagiarize, but it's important that we remember to keep true to our own work, to cite our references properly, and I'm looking for proper grammar and APA formatting. As we embark into week 1, and you get an introduction to a lot of topics this week, that you'll get an overview, and then throughout the course, we will explore a lot of these topics in more detail. For this video lecture, I did want to make sure we talked about, as you'll read in chapter 1, some of these key topics, such as defining what is international business. Being able to define it is crucial so you can move forward with the rest of the class with the context of what we mean by international business. We'll discuss the relationship between strategic management and international business and how important it is to have the skill set of developing strategy when it comes to doing business globally. We'll discuss the impact of entrepreneurship and international business or management. We'll touch on ethics, international business, and this thing called the globalization debate. And what does that mean? And we'll talk about each of these topics in a little more detail. So, what is international business? There's a variety of ways you can define this. International business, in a sense, is basically at its core is doing business with other countries. But it's more than that. It's not just doing business with foreign markets. It's understanding how you're supposed to do business with other markets. What are the parameters that you need to follow to be successful in your venture into foreign markets? What are all the factors and dynamics that you need to consider, such as political, cultural, legal, anything that has to do with trade, any laws around that? So international business is the all-encompassing. What are all the dynamics that you need to understand and how to do business internationally? Book defines it as international business encompasses a full range of cross-border exchanges of goods, services, or resources between 2 or more nations. These exchanges can go beyond the exchange of money for physical goods to include international transfers of other resources, such as people, intellectual property meaning patents, copyrights, brand trademarks, and data, and contractual assets or liabilities. So again, also when we think of business, we also think of generally just money. We think of making money. We think of selling something in return for profit or revenue. But international business, at times you could be bargaining a deal or a business venture for something else. Maybe you're looking to gain some new technology that another country can offer your business, or you can, get some kind of a new resource that you were never able to get before. There's also trade too. Trading product for product or trading product for something else in return. So international business is just not every day we create something to make money. There's other exchange involved, and we'll talk more about that in this course. But its true core international business is going to be an all-encompassing viewpoint of how to do things with foreign entities, with all those factors included. Strategic management and international business. So, a good way of looking at international strategic management is this definition: it is a comprehensive and ongoing management planning process aimed at formulating and implementing strategies that enable a firm to compete effectively internationally. Now, strategy is something I teach as well. Strategic management at the core is being able to develop um, visions and ideas on how to be competitive in your market. The core of strategy is being able to find ways to differentiate yourself from your competitors, to establish yourself as a unique business in your market. Strategic positioning is part of that, is being able to position yourselves on what you can do better and different than your competition. So when you're talking about international strategic management, you're talking about that global aspect that you have more competition now. If you're going to broaden yourselves outside of your core country to do business with other countries, you're now competing with businesses in that country or other businesses that are also in that market but are global as well. So you must be able to be even, I would say, more strategic in your plans on how you implement your business, expansion or whatever you're going to be doing with these foreign markets. Very important to do a strategic analysis of those other agencies or countries that you're going to be competing with. Why? Because if you don't understand what you're going up against, you're not going to have a very smooth plan to expand your business globally. It's part of that research before you decide to fully execute your international business plan. You want to be able to understand your competition. What are you going into? What does the market look like as well? It's not just understanding your competition internationally, it's understanding what are the dynamics of your market you're going into. How do I build a strategy to overcome any obstacles I have with the local politics, with the local culture, with the local dynamics of the legal and court system? What are the laws that I have to understand as I begin trade or business in this new country? You have to develop strategies to overcome a lot of those things or how to work through it. Strategy is developing a variety of plans to solve and work through to get to that big vision that you have of expanding globally. Expanding globally can be a good thing if it's done right. Some companies fail at expanding globally because they don't take the time to do the analysis or research of all the variables that come into play. And as I teach strategy, one of the things I discuss is you have to think strategically in what are all the variables that I have to analyze? What are all the potential pros and cons if I go forward with this path? And if you're expanding your business globally or doing global business, there's a lot more considerations you have to plot down in order to implement your business plan. So, strategic management is just being able to formulate all those different considerations into a cohesive viewpoint, articulate what you think you need to analyze, and go out and do the analysis. So, strategic management at its core is developing an idea, scoping the idea, and developing a plan to implement that idea if you have enough information to truly make it that business decision. So now let's talk about entrepreneurship and international business. This is a great slide of bullet points to say that the nature of international entrepreneurship It is the process of an entrepreneur conducting business activities across national boundaries. So, entrepreneurship, as we know at its core, is innovation, new ideas, building your own business, building your own company. Sometimes it's being an inventor and inventing a new product or service to fit the needs of the market. Entrepreneurship is growing, as we know, even right here in the United States. A lot more colleges are providing degrees in entrepreneurship. A lot of people are understanding the value of being their own boss and starting their own startup. If you watch Shark Tank, 90% of those people on that show, I'm throwing a number out there, but I'm assuming the vast majority are entrepreneurs developing a new product or service that they really want to, even in the United States, establish themselves. To be an entrepreneur globally is even more challenging because if you're not established already in your home country, how are you going to expand globally? However, some entrepreneurs, believe it or not, may find a solution to a need in the market, a product or service that would fit more for another country. So, for example, some of that's cultural, some of that could be the dynamics of the country that you're in. It depends, but you could be in the United States and develop a new product or service that makes more sense for a country in Europe, for whatever reason. Think about the fact that a lot of people in Europe don't drive cars, so you may come up with some great, commuter of walking uh, thing. I don't know what that is, but for those commuters in those cities in Europe, it can be justified that it works here in major cities of the United States, but a lot of the United States people do own cars. So maybe it's a niche product that's only special for certain parts of the United States, but can fill a huge need in Europe. That's the way entrepreneurs think as well. When they think globally, they're thinking outside the box of just their home country. They're thinking, what are the solutions, or what is a product that I can develop that is international in scope or maybe fits a specific global market. You don't have to expand globally, as in every country, every continent, to be an entrepreneur. Maybe there's just some foreign market, very specific market you have in mind to branch out into. So think of entrepreneurship as being, it can be global in scope, but be very focused globally. It doesn't have to be, when we say global, sometimes we think global business is the entire world. All major countries are participating, all major continents. Global could just mean international business from one foreign market to another. The United States and one other country outside the United States, that's international business. So again, when you think global, don't always think that it's as massive in scale as it is. Some of the questions an entrepreneur will need to ask when they're conducting international business strategies or ideas is managing international business different from managing domestic business? And as we just described, it is. An entrepreneur, especially someone who's not as experienced in business, let's say some entrepreneurs do work in the corporate environment and in business for many years, and then they go off and do their own venture and their own business because they have a great idea, or just decide that they want to work for themselves, which is just fine. Those are individuals who have the business acumen and knowledge of basic understanding of what it takes to do business domestically. Now, the challenge for someone who is up and coming and maybe just out of college or has never actually worked in the corporate world and business today, and they have a great idea and they're an entrepreneur, they may not know all the facets of how to do business domestically. So while they're developing a new product and learning how to do business domestically in their own country, because a lot of the legal parameters and marketing or whatever their specialization is not in, they have to learn all that. And then to layer on top of that, to go to business globally or internationally is even more complicated. So someone trying to establish a business domestically and internationally at the same time is going to have a big challenge. That's why a lot of entrepreneurs generally try to start with where they can establish their business in the country that they're in, find a solution that works for them and a business model that they can be successful at, and then branch out internationally. That's generally the path that leads to less risk, and a better outcome. What are the strategic issues to be resolved in international business management? Same thing as we talked about in the last slide about strategic management. Whether you're an entrepreneur or you have a well-established corporation, you have to have an understanding of what strategic issues or plans you're going to work against. So that's pretty straightforward. As an entrepreneur, you even have that extra layer of needing resource and time to understand all the things you needed to do to go to business internationally. The other question is, what are the options available for engaging in international business? So, do you do it alone as an entrepreneur? Do you invest your own money? It's the same as trying to find an investor in your business. Understand that your investor is a key stakeholder now of your business. What are their interests? You have to make sure they align with yours. Are they okay with you going globally with your business? Or if you've been in business for you're in a small business for a little while, and you want to go to do business globally with a foreign market, you have to get the buy-in from your investors. They invest in your product from the beginning, and if they still have a share of your company, well, as an entrepreneur, you have to make sure that they buy into your vision to go globally. So those are things you have to consider. And overall, the bottom line question is, how should one assess the decision to enter into an international market? It's taking all those things we just talked about into consideration, and at the end of the day, asking yourself, is this the best business plan for my business as an entrepreneur? Is this going to make sense with all the variables we've considered? Have I done enough research? Do I know the market I'm going into in and out? Do I know all the cultural, political, economical, all the factors in play that I'm about to get myself into? Because once you get in it, it's going to be harder to get out, or it's going to be, harder to be as successful as if you have done your research all up front. So as we talk about a variety of things in global business, one thing is ethics. Ethics in business in general, if you just think about it from a general business perspective, is you have to have an understanding of what is right and wrong. Ethics is all about identifying what's right and wrong. What's right and wrong, though, in one country could be different in another. What we view in America or the United States as ethical or proper in our culture could be different in another culture. Many ethical issues in global business is rooted in politics, legal issues, economic development, culture, and can vary from nation to nation. So that's why it's very important that you understand your foreign market, you're the country you're going to do business with, their culture, their politics, their laws as much as you can based on the business you're going to do. Find out what is considered ethical to them. Now, you're not maybe going to always agree what's ethical to that country or not based on where you come from, but you can't compete with that. You can't change that. You're not going to go in and change a whole country's culture or law system or politics because you have a new business venture you're going to go into. Not many corporations are that powerful to influence an entire country. Some can probably influence, I'm not going to say that there aren't companies that have probably gone in and changed some dynamic of law or politics or culture in a country, but you have to be well established and have a really big product or already a global reputation to do that. But in general, though, the ethical considerations you need to have are what are the viewpoints of right and wrong, good and bad, that type of overview when you go into that foreign market. More of the most common ethical issues can be employment practices, human rights, environmental regulations, corruption, and more obligation of multinational corporations. So some of these are basically human resource related. It's not always going to be, is your product going to be against their culture? Generally, when you develop a product or service or something, some type of business venture, you have a goal in mind. Generally, it's to fulfill a need or a service to consumers or stakeholders. So you're probably developing a product that generally, or a service that generally isn't going to be offensive for other cultures. Now, it might be, it depends. You have to understand what those cultural values are. But what it really comes down to is if your business operates the way the country see appropriate. Does the foreign market agree with your human resource plans? how you employ people, how you treat your employees, how you pay your employees is a big deal too. We'll talk about wage in this course as well, and the dynamics between how pay scales are different from country to country, how wages can fluctuate for the same type of work from one country to the next. Those are ethical things though to be considered of. How, people's take home pay, their salaries, their wages is an ethical concern for any country because that's what people have to live off of. Human rights, again, being treated fairly and equally. Here in the United States, we definitely have a laws that everybody is treated equal. In other countries, maybe not. Maybe they don't, and maybe they don't have an equal opportunity employment type law into effect. We are, as the United States, supposed to employ people without any bias against their real race, religion, creed, sexual orientation. We're supposed to have an equal playing field for job opportunity. Other countries may not. That's something you have to consider when you do business with other countries. Is what is their what are their laws? What is their viewpoint on hiring and things of that nature? So keep that in mind. Environmental regulations, there could be a very narrow, specific law in a country that you can't do a certain type of business in certain parts of that country or radius because of their environmental concerns. So you definitely keep that into play. And corruption is definitely political, but it's not always mean the politics, the government. It could be just corruption within the corporations. Corruption's a really big concern for a lot of countries. When a foreign market comes in or foreign agency comes in and wants to do business in that country, they worry that outside entity could be corrupt, could be finding ways to not pay their dues to that other country or fulfill their obligations. And countries are wary of that because they've seen it happen. And you'll see some case examples in this class where corruption, it does exist. It will always exist in some form or fashion around this world. Corruption definitely isn't something we want to see, but it does occur. Uh, you know, and it's something that just has to be really looked at if any company or business wants to go internationally. So, in overall essence, ethics is something that we'll talk a lot about in this class. You're going to do several assignments that are ethics based. You're going to be given ethical dilemma assignments. So, I'll have 5 in this course where you'll discuss or read about a topic in the course, and then you're going to be presented with an ethical dilemma, an actual case study example of a situation that someone's in their business venture internationally, and you'll be posed with a question: what would you do in this situation, basically, based on your ethical thoughts around the situation? So, be prepared to speak a lot to ethics in this course. So one of the last topics I want to make sure we cover tonight is globalization debate, and talk about the term globalization first, and then we'll talk about what the viewpoints are out there on globalization. Globalization is basically, one viewpoint is it's the monopoly effect of a business in the foreign essence. It's where you take a business or a company and you make it more universal in nature across the world, and it's very standardized amongst all the foreign markets that it's in. There's no uniqueness to this business from one country to the other. It's very globalized. It's very merged, if you will. It's very big in scope. And there's some supporters of it, and there are critics. Critics worry, and some of the cons that they think that it would exist from a globalization effort from any business is that it creates job loss. There's environmental degradation and global imperialism of the media. So to break that down further is it kind of like with any merger, if you see that in the United States, take two companies and merge them into one, there's always some type of job loss, usually. Why? Because there's synergies, right? We're trying to synergize departments. We're taking two companies, putting them together in departments like accounting or human resources or operations, where there's similar job functions. We can't have two people do the same job. And unfortunately, that does create job loss. or you merge two companies together and there's a technology factor. Some companies merge because one company has a better system or technology advancement that they can benefit from that eliminates jobs. So job loss can be a concern, and that's why globalization is another way of just saying you're merging a company across multiple markets. And as you do that, you're finding synergies of those different markets and finding ways to not have duplicated efforts and wasted resources and having three or four people do the same job. So it can create job loss. But that doesn't mean necessarily it's a bad thing for the long-term scope of that business. It really depends on which side of the fence you want to look at it. The environmental degradation, that it's really important because not every country it has businesses that truly practice sustainability. If you know sustainability, it's all about people, planet, and profit. Planet being a key part of that. A lot of companies in the United States, you know, do try to be sustainable using recycled product, giving back to the environment, finding ways to go green, if you know that statement of we're being environmentally friendly. Well, as you globalize, if you don't have a concurrence between countries on your environmental strategies to be sustainable, to really look out for the environment, then there's going to be degradation to that. You're going to have to give up some of that ownership and say, well, if I'm going to expand and if more of these countries do not want to participate in my sustainable strategies, then we have to find a compromise. And that can, really impact the environment. Or if your product or service is going to be something that really is already impacting the environment and you make it global, gasoline or some type of business where you're developing factories all over the world and you're polluting the air, that can be a degradation to the environment. It really depends, especially in factory settings where, that can really impact the land of a country. And those are things to really think about. And global imperialism of the media. So what that means is the control aspect of the media. Again, the more you broaden your business globally, the more you're not going to have an impact on a local media to talk about your business. So there's a lot of factors with that you have to understand. But there are benefits. And again, think of globalization as just a large merger. But it's not necessarily saying we're merging two companies. We're just taking a company, merging the different foreign markets together. Okay, so it's a company that can go broad in scope across the globe. They're not merging with another company necessarily, but sometimes globalization could do that. Globalization could be two outside foreign market companies and merging into one to make a global company. That can happen too. So globalization is one of two things. It's a company that's broadening its scope and being more universal and more streamlined and more centric in what they're doing, or it's two companies from different realms of the world merging into one and making one large company. That can happen. So, like in any merger, these are some of the same benefits you'd see in just a regular merger here in the US. Supporters believe that increased trade and cross border investment mean lower prices for goods and services, greater economic growth, and higher consumer income. Those are the benefits, like I said, you would say if you were just going to merge in general here in the United States. That if you merge your companies together, you're going to find cost value. You're going to find ways to do your business cheaper, faster, and provide better opportunity for your customers. Greater economic growth, just like in mergers, globalization can mean the more broad you are, the bigger markets you can serve, the more individuals that can obtain your product and have opportunity to buy your product or service. Obviously, the more economic growth you're going to have, the more you spread that opportunity to others around the world, the more growth you're going to have economically. And higher consumer income, what could happen is you could end up improving economies of scale. You could improve the local economies as well. It really depends on the economies of that market already. If it's a poor, poverty-stricken country or city or market, it's going to be hard to make your business a hero and come in to save that city. But you might be able to promote new jobs. Sometimes you do create jobs with these efforts, and therefore there's income to be made by these individuals who work for you and can put that money back into the community. or it's the other way around. You could have a really well, very a city or a country that isn't in poverty, that is doing well, and come in there and do a foreign globalization effort and really impact that community in a positive manner, because there already is income to be spent and there are jobs to be had in that essence as well. So there are two sides to this debate. We'll talk more about globalization as we expand in this course. I'd say that there's no necessarily right or wrong answer at the end of the day too. It just depends on the actual case study, the business itself. Globalization can work for some, it may not work for others, just like mergers and acquisitions. Some mergers work really well, some don't. There are trade-offs in general with either route that you go. So I think it's important to understand that globalization is something that isn't going to go away anytime soon either, because as technology advances and makes us interact and are able to communicate and do business more seamlessly and faster around the globe, it's not going to go away. And so globalization will always have some form in today's environment and business. So we just have to be open minded as to where it goes from here. That's what I'm going to conclude with here in this first video lecture in week one. I do appreciate your time in reviewing this video lecture tonight. Wish you the best of luck in week one. Please do take the time to review the syllabus and what's expected of you. Your first assignment this week, your first discussion is due Thursday by 11:59 p.m. That's your initial post, and please make sure you do your responses by Sunday by 11:59 p.m. and you have your first assignment due this coming Sunday as well. I wish you the best of luck as you get more acclimated. Please do email me with any questions, and then we will reconvene in our second week. I hope you have a great first week, and take care. Thank you.